invite the president of the Indonesian Student Association of Australian Capital Territory, Ms. Febrina Kusuma. The event will speech.
Welcome, guys. It's good to see you, and hopefully we can have more insightful discussion. Although I know this is weekend. After this, y'all free to do whatever. Maybe go get some drink or whatever. But yeah, I would like to welcome Excellency, our U.S. Ambassador from Indonesia, Pak Sifo Pramono, Mr. Sifo Pramono. It's pretty difficult to mix Indonesia and English. Also, our esteemed speaker, attend online, Mr. Krishna Gupta, who will also be talking about our topic today. Mr. And also, I would really like to thank you guys and also Ramaikan, English and basically to join. Also, we have some snacks over here. Later on, we'll be distributing everyone. So, it's all good. So, welcome to everyone. It's been online Zoom. So sorry, I'm really and thank you so much for the Indonesian Student Association in Australia and Student Association, Indonesian Student Association, for helping us today prepare. Yeah, that's all for me. Thank you guys so much, and let's start our discussion.
Thank you very much for your opening remarks. So once again, yes, thank you very much for coming to our event today, DIKSI. Before we begin with our content from our speakers, I'd like to introduce equally esteemed he is a PhD candidate at the Australian National University Richmond School of Economics. He is a research interest in macroeconomics, development economics, and market economics, and he is a public intellectual with several publications, interactions between monetary and macroprudential policy, as well as banking sectors within the framework of BSG, small open economies. We thank you very much, Mr. Opianto. Please guide us very well as moderator for today's session. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you everyone, and it's really happy to have you here. And then my name is Pak Opianto. I'm a PhD student in economics at the ANU, and I'm very delightful to be moderator for this seminar. And so, as we know that last month Indonesia has been successfully organized the ASEAN Summit 42nd in Labuan Bajo, Nusa Tenggara, and there are several essential points that being discussed during the summit. So one of the important discussion during the summit is ASEAN needs to strengthen the regional resilience and connectivity as a foundation for the survival. So ASEAN must ensure regional resilience in food, energy, financial stability, connectivity, and also health architecture. And the development of the electric vehicle ecosystem in the region of ASEAN is the priority. So the summit also encourages the Asian countries to become a global electric vehicle hub and also to strengthen their efforts to decarbonize the transportation sector. So we are very fortunate to today we have two esteemed experts who will share their insights about the topics. So let me introduce the speakers. So the keynote speaker is Pak Siswo Pramono. Selamat siang, Pak Siswo. Siang. So Pak Siswo Pramono is the Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia for Australia and Vanuatu. And Pak Siswo also holds the PhD in Political Science in the ANU at 2003. And Pak Siswo also was the head of the Policy Analysis and Development Agency in the Ministry of the Foreign Affairs of Indonesia. And our next speaker is Pak Krishna Gupta. So Pak Krishna Gupta, people also know him as the Mas Imet. So selamat pagi, Mas Imet. So Pak Krishna Gupta is also a lecturer, full-time lecturer at the PPIA, ITP Polytechnic Jakarta. And he also the part-time lecturer at the University of Indonesia. And also he is an associate researcher at the CIPS Indonesia, Center for Indonesian Policy Studies. And Mr. Krishna also held the PhD in economics program at the INU in 2022. And his research interest is in the international trade and also about the industry. So before we start, let me go over some housekeeping items. So basically, we are going to have 4 different sessions for today's seminar. So the first session will be presentation from Pak Siswo, and then followed by the Q&A session. And after that, we are going to move into the next speaker, Pak Krishna Gupta, and then followed by the Q&A session. So for participants in INU, if you have any question, you can raise your hand. And for participants in the Zoom, so please make sure you mute your speaker while presentation is being held. And if you have any question, you can just raise your hand or you can put it in the chat box. Okay, without further ado, let's please welcome our keynote speaker, Pak Siswo Pramono. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Before we start, I just would like to acknowledge the Ngunnawal people, the custodian of the land, will be gathered today. We have our discussion on ASEAN and pay respect to the elders, past, present, and emerging. And thank you very much for PPI to organize this event. I think it's very timely. Yes, last year we were chair of the G20. We have been doing this successfully, and now we chair of ASEAN, and it's even more strategic because of the present geopolitical tension. But in both chairmanship, presidency last year and the G20, and now chairmanship in ASEAN, Australia has been supporting Indonesia all the way, and we would like to thank the Australian government and people for that. Now, the topic of my talking today is more on the, yes, epicentrum of growth. There are so many elements of it, yeah, but I would like to touch more on the business aspect of this theme. So, where's the cursor? The cursor is stuck here. Why can't I move the cursor? No, yeah. Yeah, the cursor is some kind of, yeah, I think it's a bit slow. Because camera is freezing today. Computer is freezing. Our finger is freezing. Yeah, okay. So, oh yes. So as mentioned before in the opening, that we ASEAN leader gathered in Indonesia in Labuan Bajo last May, and they come up with the chair statement. Among others, is to see the direction of ASEAN economically forward. So the ASEAN matters, epicentrum of growth. There are some elements that we would like to touch in our discussion today. The first one is ASEAN leaders' declaration on the development of regional electric vehicle ecosystem. Can I move it forward? Yeah. And also ASEAN leaders' declaration on One Health initiative, and ASEAN leaders' declaration on the protection of migrant workers, and ASEAN leaders' declaration on advancing regional payment, connectivity, and promoting local currency transaction. So all of these themes are pretty much interrelated one to the others. Like if you are talking about the industry relating to electric vehicle, you need LIBA, and migrant worker will be very important. I mean, the free flow of migrant workers, but they also need to be protected against the pandemic, against disease, and so on. That's why One Health initiative also very important. Now, then after that, we are talking about regional payments, about promoting local currency transaction, and so on. So it's pretty much interconnected one to the others. But today, because of the constraint of time, just would like to touch upon ASEAN leaders' declaration on the development or developing regional electric vehicle ecosystem. In the next slide, this is a bit a story of Master Plan of ASEAN Connectivity. I believe that all of you are familiar with. So in the ASEAN Master Plan of Connectivity, we have several initiatives. One of them is on the seamless logistic. Yeah, seamless logistic in terms of trade routes and supply chains. If we are aware that if we are talking about pollution, if you are talking about emission, transport is the main source of pollution or emissions. Number two is normally the industry and then household and so on. So if we would like to put the energy transition into action, the first target should be transportation. And electric vehicle is a pretty much a vehicle itself for moving towards sustainability and less emission. Yeah. So this is pretty much connected with the master plan of ASEAN connectivity itself, in particular on the seamless logistic as far as the transportation is concerned. The next slide, we would like to see how the GDP contribute to that. ADB, ASEAN Development Bank, estimate ASEAN needs at least 2.7 trillion US dollar. A quite big number actually, 2.7 trillion US dollar on investment for infrastructure within the period of 2016 2030. 2.7 trillion for investment, of investment for infrastructure. More than 50% of the investment is for power generation, because power generation, we have coal-fired mostly. This will be produce a lot of emissions, and then 31% is for transportation, and electric vehicle, hybrid vehicle will be part of that in moving forward toward more sustainable transport. Now, this number 2.7 trillion as a baseline is more or less 5% of the GDP in Southeast Asia. And if with the climate adjusted, we have even need more investment, no longer 2.7 trillion, but about 3.1 trillion US dollar. That's about 5.7% of the GDP. So how we achieve that? Then triple helix must be engaged, not only the government, but also the industry and university academic research. Yeah. Now, electric vehicle is a magic word of today. If you look at the right side, yeah, this is the market for motorcycle in Indonesia. It's really very huge. Yeah. But there are two comments here. ASEAN is the region where demand for vehicle remains high. Yeah. For passenger cars, ASEAN will be experience the increasing demand on the passenger cars. So if we look at this passenger car registration here, can you see my cursor? Yeah, yeah. We have North America, we have Western Europe, we have transition economics, we have Latin America and Asia and Australasia. So if you look all the number here, this will be on the million. So North America in 2019, they have 5.9, almost 6 million car. Then down here in 2003, dropped into 3 million, right? And you have to see the minus here. Yeah. But in Asia, you can see that from 3.36 million car registered, now in 2023 remain 26, but there is a tendency of increasing registering of car, 38 million and toward 42 million in 2027. So the point is that there will be more car in Asia and Australia, not less, but more. And so this is a growing market by itself. Now, the Indonesian situation is also the same. If this is the production of our motorcycle in Indonesia, which is really huge, yeah. Comparing the data from 2011, the dark blue, and 2021. So it's about 10 years different at the light blue. So you can see that it's quite a jump actually in 2021, that much, yeah, about 190 million motorcycles. Yeah, so this is quite a lot. If we combine with Thailand and Malaysia, then the whole ASEAN might well end up into 250, more than 250 million motorcycle. If the combustion system is changed into electric, then you can see how big is the market. Yeah, electric vehicle, either cars or motorbike, electric motorbike. So then we see the situation in Indonesia in the last 5 years or so until today. Indonesia is very rich with all material needed for battery and also automotive. So let's say the data here. Yeah, on the mineral side, nickel, we are the global reserve #1. Yeah, ranked #1 in global reserve of nickel. Yeah, and in the global production, also the same. We are ranked #1 in the global production of nickel, and the share is about 26%. Down here, bauxite, we have it, copper, gold, and tins. Yeah, but nickel is one among the very important ingredients if we are talking about electric battery. Yeah, so here you can see Indonesia's export of iron, steel, and battery material has been increasing quite a lot, actually from 2014 all the way to 2022. Yeah, so you can see the trend, like it's really rise up. Yeah, quite a lot. Now, then the history of our mineral is this, like you can see in the bottom. We start with actually nickel ore export, extractive industry, nickel export. Now we all know, we move into iron and steel export already. So it's almost finished product. So that's mean another value added in our export. Yeah, and then in the next couple of years, actually our program is move even further into battery and electric vehicle export. Why? Because the market, I already mentioned, is so huge in Asia, especially in developing ASEAN. Beyond that, also in Australasia, that we have a very big market. We have all the potential to produce battery and automotive. We are very competitive in automotive. Why not? And ASEAN itself has a commitment, very high one, to create an ecosystem for electric vehicle. Yeah, before is for automotive combustion. Yeah, then you can see the note here. Then we have an issue of lithium because we don't have one. Yeah, so talking about battery, you need nickel, you need lithium, but we have a very rich neighbor, Australia, with the lithium. Yeah, so in here, this is the map. Thanks, man. The map of all of the resources in Australia. This is from 2016, but it's not much change actually. So if you look at all the symbol here, this is lithium, light metals. This will be aluminum, lithium, and manganese. Yeah. So the circle means that the mining is already in operation. If the sign is like triangle here, means developing mine. And if the square like this, mineral deposit, yeah, is a very early stage. Now, we look at all the circle here, the pink circle, we got it actually in Cape of York. Is it blocked by the, yeah, so can we move it on? No worries. So mostly in the Cape of York, we got one. In Northern Territory, we have some, mostly in here, in this part. And then, sorry. And then in Western Australia, yeah, especially in this part. Yeah. This is the already in operation, yeah. But we have also the so-called junior mining. That mining is still being developed, like in part of the Northern Territory here, very close to Darwin. Yeah, there is some junior or juvenile actually lithium mining. It just been developed last year actually. The production is very new. Yeah. Now there are two kind of things if we would like to get lithium from Australia. For the junior mine, the mine is just recently developed. It's very good. The point is that they can increase the production if you give them money. Yeah, you need to invest, yeah, in equity or otherwise. Because okay, I have production of 2 tons. If you need 1 more ton production and sell it to you, you give me the money, and I'm going to extract more lithium for you. Yeah. So this is mostly the deal. But now it's a bit difficult, not difficult, because Australia also have a dream to be what's it called what's it called energy superpower of the world. Yeah, because Australia is blessed with sunshine, Australia is blessed with the wind and lithium. Yeah, so it's a good combination. You can have a green mining, for instance, because in the mining and the processing you need electricity. If the electricity produced by photovoltaic, then this will be green. In our case, we use a lot of actually green energy like hydropower. So if we use electricity from hydropower, then our product will be green product. But in Australia, they are pretty much blessed with either wind, but in particular sunshine. Yeah. So this is one of the struggling question, how far Australia is going to process their lithium at home, and how far Indonesia is going to invest and join the production. Yeah, because this is the tricky one. Yeah, I think this part. Yeah, so this is the process of getting lithium. Yeah, from the earth until in the market. Yeah. So more or less there is 6 steps. You know, other map might be different, but this is standard one. Yeah. From upstream into downstream, yeah, upstream into downstream. I think this will be the middle part. So first is discovery. You look at the lithium, use science and technology to, oh, there's lithium here, and then start the second step is extraction. Lithium ores and brine concentrate are extracted. So from the earth into extraction, and then processing. Lithium ores and concentrate are converted into processed lithium compound. Yeah, and then refining process, and then battery manufacturing, and then the end use can be automotive and so on. Now the problem with Australia, you have more cattle rather than people, and cattle cannot work in the company. Yeah. But Indonesia have only a little cattle, but a lot of people. Yeah, you know that the cattle in Australia, your cow, he is about 28 million people, 25 million. In Indonesia, we have 260 million people, and only 81 million cow. Yeah, but in here, then we have an advantage because people can work in the company now. The more you move to the right downstreaming, the more expensive and complicated the system. You need more labor, you need more technology, you need your land, but you need to be very close to the market. So we have labor, we have land, yeah. We don't have technology, perhaps, but we have very big market. I already explained all the statistics of electric vehicle and also combustion, right? Now, the point is that the negotiation, okay, Australia, can you go as far as extraction? And then processing, refining, battery manufacturing, and so on in Indonesia. Said, no, it's bloody hell. It's too much too much money for you, then less money for mine. So okay, how about processing? Now this is all the bargaining. Yeah, can we do processing in Australia? Yes, you can. But where is the labor? Then we have a special agreement with Indonesia, for instance, that our labor can work in the processing in Australia, and then the lithium ores and concentrate being sent for the level 3, level 4, and level 5 processing, and with the same agreement on the labor, yeah, skilled labor. Yeah. So I think these are the things that we need to really think of. Yeah, because if you process the lithium until the car here will be disaster because you're very famous. What is it? The Australian car, like Batman car. Holden Superior. I love it, like Batman and Robin car that is just disappear like dinosaurs in the 60s already, right? Now, because you cannot be competitive, everything is so expensive here, and it's just for information. If you are talking about electric vehicle, 35% of the value of the electric vehicle is in the battery. If the battery is not competitive, your car is not going to be competitive, right? If your battery competitive, 65%, and your car is likely being be competitive, because our competitor will be China and India, Wuling, Hinduja, Tata Group, this all kind of stuff, yeah, not Mercedes, yeah, but this kind of city car things, yeah. Now back to the geopolitics of it, and this is the geopolitics of it, yeah. You see that on the left side, the left side is supply of raw lithium. Right side is the lithium chemical processing. Remember all the 6 steps? Yeah. Now the question is, Australia is the largest producer of lithium, 45%, but when it comes to processing, it's nothing. We don't find yellow here, right? All goes to China, yeah, because Australian lithium is being processed by China. That's why even though China is only have 30% in the production, they got almost 60% in the processing, right? And then you have quarter, then things getting more difficult. Like, okay, so we need to have processing somewhere else. In Australia, it would be very expensive, and Indonesia is another option. Because we are the neutral country. We are a friend of China, we are a friend of Australia. Now, but negotiation is not that easy. Chile here, they produce 32 and they process 31. I mean, it's almost equal, right? That means they have the capacity to produce and the capacity to process. But we cannot rely on Chile, perhaps because it's far away. But at the same time, we cannot start with joining since the very beginning, because they have their own labor and so on. Yeah. So this is the situation, and this is the prospect. Yeah? This is all the news in the left side. Indonesia electric motorbike makers hit the accelerator. So the crazy thing is that I still remember the RX. If you see the movie Dilan, this is the typical Indonesian motorbike. Yeah, Dilan is used RX Yamaha, is it? Yeah, but this is jacket from Dilan. Yeah, I love this movie. Indonesian motorbike makers hit the accelerator. We are going to produce 30 million. 130,000, yeah, 13 million motorbike in 2030s, by 2030s, yeah, yeah. And now we already produced the first 2 million, right? And all need lithium. Not only lithium, also technology for battery recycling. CSIRO has a very good technology of battery recycling. So this is a kind of cooperation that we build between Indonesia and Australia. Indonesia begins electric car production with Hyundai plant. Yeah, so we have the off-taker already. Hyundai is producing electric, and Toyota planned 1.8 billion Indonesian investment to build electric vehicle, mostly hybrid. Yeah, so this is all the potential of off-taker, the potential of production. Yeah, we have all the experience of producing car. Our cars now already in Australian road, the Fortuner. This is Indonesian made. Yeah. And why not we cooperate more on that? Yeah, you know, this is the kingdom of Toyota. Indonesia is the one in the red circle. TMMIN is Toyota Motor Manufacturing Indonesia. Yeah, and they produce Toyota. Yeah, Toyota Fortuner is ready in Australia. We are very competitive because last year actually we plan to export on the 600 unit to Australia. We end up with the selling in Australia more than 900 units. That means we are competitive, right? Yeah. Okay. So Indonesia car manufacturing has been very rapid growth. Yeah. In the last few years, with production of 2.35 million units per year, so 2.3 million units per year. So we are very close to Thailand as the car producers, yeah, and so on. And we are very competitive if we are talking about combustion system, and 1,000 cc, 1,000 to 1,500 cc, and 1 1,500 cc to 3,000 cc, and potentially in hybrid and electric vehicle as well. Yeah. So this is the fact that we are competitive on car with combustion or in hybrid or electric vehicle, 100%. And last year, Toyota Indonesia has also launched the first complete built-up CPU hybrid car, the Kijang Innova Zenix. With the Kijang Innova Zenix, Toyota is planning to produce 11,000 units in 2023 this year. Yeah, 18,000 units in 2024 next year, and 37,000 units in 2025. And 20% of this will be for export. Yeah, so we are going to export more car, yeah, especially the hybrid as well. Now, this is the demand in Australia, rising the demand on the electric vehicle. This is market itself, yeah. And if you look at the circle in the right, this is the light vehicle sales by fuel type in 2022. So pretty much 52% is still on petrol, normal car combustion, 53%. And diesel is about 35%, but look at this 8% is hybrid. So we have market for hybrid here. You know that in Australia, they still buy cars because Australia is very rich. Every Australia, they have two cars, two garages. One car and the other one is from storage. But mostly they have two cars, right? And every year they imported still 1.2 million cars. 1.2 million cars is a lot, and we produce about 2 million cars. Yeah. So and the government current government policy is that 10% should be electric vehicle. So 1.2 million cars, 10% of it is will be 120,000 cars, and this is a very huge market for us to explore. Now, and you are from macroeconomics, right? So this one actually, we use the combine the methodology of CRA, refill comparative advantage, RCA, refill comparative advantage, and CMSA, constant market share analysis. As the point is that if the CRA score bigger than 1, and the CMSA score bigger than 0, and the other bigger than 1, then the product is great. That means they are very competitive and they have a very good score on the RCA as well. Now, if you look at this, this is on the harmonized system 6-digit is very precise. Yeah, we are talking if we are talking about motor cars and other motor vehicle. Our position is great. Yeah, Australia is sunrise. Yeah, and this type of motor cars and other motor vehicle like the X70322 harmonized system, we are great. Australian saturated. So there's a good chance to trade with Australia because we are great. They are saturated. Yeah, means that we can export more car here. So there's a theories. Yeah, but here on engine hybrid, yeah, Indonesia is sunrise, and Australia is saturated. So we are in a good position to export more car here. Yeah, and on the electric vehicle, full electric, yeah, we are sunrise, Australian sunrise. Yeah, so this is it's always a lot of potential to trade one to the others. Yeah, now this is the last slide for me. We have ASEAN, yeah, Indonesia Australia Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, and one of our mandate is actually increase export for Indonesian products such as automotive. So we already have some basis on it, and the ASEAN, all the barrier is almost 0 for us and also from Australia. So we have a good chance to have more to export more automotive to Australia. Why? Because we still have deficit and trade, and exporting more vehicle like this have more value added of this. It will be a good to balance the deficit. This is the short story on the ASEAN project on the electric vehicle into the impacts of the bilateral ties between Indonesia and Australia as far as the very strategic ingredient is concerned. We have nickel and Australia have the lithium. I had to stop here and perhaps we can continue during the discussion time. Thank you very much. Yeah. So I think we are not competing. Yes, competing in the sense that we would like to have a very competitive product. The ecosystem for us at bilateral level includes the development of economic powerhouse between Indonesia and Australia, where we have a greater ecosystem in ASEAN for electric vehicle. Because if we look at the history of Toyota, for instance, Toyota is in the early 2000s, actually being developed all over ASEAN. The first, the rubber part actually is produced by Malaysia, because Malaysia is efficient on producing rubber things, like the tires and so on. And the electric part is mostly in the Philippines, and some production in Malaysia, especially in Indonesia, because Jakarta, and it's become further so the ecosystem existed for quite a long time, and why did this happen? Because of the ASEAN master plan on connectivity. Yeah. So it's more like on the creating economic powerhouse. Yes, everyone has competitiveness in itself if we use this formula of LCA, LCMSA. But the point is how to connect the dots. Yeah. Every battery they make nickel and also they lithium. Australia produces lithium. Australia has source of nickel as well. But Australian production of nickel is only 10% from Indonesia because of the we have this lithium comparative advantage in labor, for instance. Yeah. So I think we are what we need to do is to have more integrated economic powerhouse with Australia, because the two material is needed in battery.
So yeah, we have another question from the participant in Zoom. So Alia asking about is there any plan from the ASEAN countries to develop battery recycling facilities to support the ecosystem in the ASEAN region?
Yes, I think we have this plan. That's why we are looking for technology for that. And CSIRO, for instance, they have very good research and also experience on the battery technology. The CSIRO at Monash University. So I visited once, yeah, and they can recycle until 95, more than 95%. Yeah, I think it's good one. You can imagine that we produce 15 million electric vehicle, 20 million cars, 15 million electric motorbike, all in battery, and you don't have recycling. It would be disaster for the environment, right? So recycling is a must because it's part of the sustainable development in ASEAN. Yeah. Remember, if we are talking about ASEAN outlook on Indo-Pacific, we have 4 pillars. The first one is connectivity, maritime, and then number 3 is UN SDG. Yeah, sustainable development goal, and part of it will be on the sustainability and the production as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very interesting to understand more about the EV actually. So so one of the challenges, especially from the to increase the demand of the people for EV, especially in Indonesia, is about the affordability.
Mm-hmm.
And some people still thinking that it's quite expensive for this vehicle. So is there any kind of some business models from Australia that can be implemented for Indonesia so that it's more affordable, so it can reach millions of people?
Yeah, I attended the battery mineral conference in Perth, I think last month. There's a lot of conversation and also presentation that is very interesting. One is on the subsidy, because we are going to give subsidy for the electric motorbike. Yeah. And I believe it will be like kacang goreng. Yeah. So just put there and everyone just grab one. Yeah. China already have the system before. They give subsidy for electric motorbike and vehicle. Yeah. And the sale is like this, but when the subsidy is revoked, yeah, it's getting flat, but and then at the normal prices rise up again. Yeah, so we are going to experience that too. People are rushing for the product, the electric motorbike, because of the subsidy. But when the subsidy is revoked, perhaps 3 years or so, then we got deal with the normal price. But at the same point, the production will be very large. You know? So it will be also push the price down if you have enough production to the break-even point. So actually, the subsidy is more to lift up the production and to a certain level, that then the price can be pushed on because you have enough in the market for sale. Yeah, so this is one of the things that the government now has been doing, is to provide subsidy for electric motorbike.
Yeah. So for continuing the discussion, so if we learn from Australia, so basically regarding the target for the EVs, so actually every state they have their own target and also their own initiative. So like ACT, they have different target and different initiative with states. But in Indonesia, it's mostly driven by the central government. So is there any need or urgency for the different provinces in Indonesia to put their own target for
No, I think market fragmentation is not really good, right? You need a single statistic for a big market like Indonesia. In here, the funny thing is that most of the state is quite independent from the federal government, and they have their own regulation on that. Yeah, but fragmentation in the market is something serious that we need to anticipate. Yeah, but for Indonesia, I think I'm actually more just happy with what is happening now. We have a huge market. Of course, the level of development is different, but okay, motorbike, you can see that it's everywhere from Papua to Aceh. Yeah, and it's affordable. Yeah, so I think with the current situation, we are good enough to go with the commercialization of the electric vehicle, or in particular electric motorbike. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have another question from Pak Yuri Hartawan. So Pak Yuri would like to know how ready are Indonesian citizens towards these opportunities and also the growth.
I think Indonesia is very much adapted to all changes. Yeah, but the point is that we have a quite sustainable economics. Yeah, sustainable in the sense that we are. It's not superpowers, but a bit resistant to the shock. Yeah. And just remember, after the invasion of Russia into Ukraine, yeah, then we have crisis of food, we have a crisis of energy, and the most importantly is that we have a crisis of trust in the globalization. That's what happened that time until today. And then we got stagflation, where the economic growth is pushed down, and then we have a high rising of inflation that happened mostly in Europe. Yeah, you can see until today all the statistics of AU. Yeah, most of the inflation is still higher than the economic growth. Yeah, some got stagflation, so some's not. Yeah. But that is the situation. But if you look at Asia, in particular Indonesia, yes, we have a shock at that time. Like our inflation rise by 4%. Yeah, but we still needed to have growth by 5% or so. Yeah, and now it's even more, like 5.2%, and inflation is more manageable. And Australia, you have like 6% inflation still now. 6 to 7%. Different region, different situation, and and the growth is about 3%, right? It's about 3% in here, economic growth. Yeah. So we are blessed with the situation that somehow we can manage to pass the pandemics and manage to pass the crisis of in Europe, yeah, due to the invasion of Russia into Ukraine. Yeah, it is actually during that difficult time last year that we have surplus with the world. The largest in our history is 50 billion US dollar surplus in our trade with the world, right? And this precisely the issue with Australia, not the issue with Australia, the connectivity with Australia. Because our surplus, this 50 billion money, is actually sustained by our exportation of steel product, yeah, automotive and stuff, yeah, steel, stainless steel from Calcutta and so on, yeah. And the iron ore is from Western Australia. The more we have, we export steel, the more we have surplus, the more we depend on the importation of steel from Australia, and that's why we have deficit with Australia. So this is the connectivity between the two economy actually, and quite complementary indeed. Yeah, this is one point that we need to be believe more that there is a lot of possibility to have an economic powerhouse with Australia. You have labor, you have technology, you have nickel, and you have lithium. We're not working together. Yeah, and so the win-win situation. Exploring the market of Asia, Australasia, and the Middle East together. Yeah, and we can be very competitive on that. Yeah? Together with Australia.
Okay, so
Hi, you made a point about how small Australian population is. Briefly, I just touched on sort of central discussions. Get maybe here to with those extraction process. Elaborate on that a bit more. Is there
on labor? Yeah. So actually, we have enough discussion. Now we put into action. Yeah. So in the last couple of months, there has been a negotiation and talks between the. This is just an example, a very good one. Indonesia Association of Engineers and Australia Engineer. This is a two associations. Yeah. Because in our experience, we have a lot of miners in Australia, like Puma. It's a big miner, and we are going to. I'm going to have meeting with them. Indonesian mining operative, very active in Australia. We have Sinarmas. Yeah. And you remember the largest gold mine in Queensland, 50% is from Indonesian company, and the other 50% from Australia, the largest one in Queensland gold mine. And then we still have Salim Group, yeah, and many others in here. They cry out for engineer. We need more engineer, but there's not enough engineer in Australia. So the Engineer Association of Indonesia talk with the Engineer Association of Australia, and they come up with the MRA, mutually recognized agreement on engineer. And we are going to sign it on the 30th of June. That means our engineer can start working here, not only in our miners, but can also look possible in Australian miners. This is a very good one as a modality for more economic powerhouse between Indonesia and Australia. We have very good skilled labor, most of them working in the Middle East and some in Asia, these engineers, and they can work in Australia as well. Yeah, so at least then we can have like, okay, level 1, level 2, perhaps level 3 in Australia, but 4, 5, 6 of the lithium will be in Indonesia with this MRA thing. This is one example. Yeah, yeah, it's a real pie and sweet for everyone.
Okay, so thank you very much, Pak Sis.
Thank you.
It's very so, yeah. So before next speak. So
Maybe we'll start with the
So what are we going to do now? Yeah, offline program.
yeah, so maybe so you because yes.
Yep, I'm going to knows I need to push this thing back. Supaya ada ruangan. Let's have 2 rows. Everyone please come up the other row. Those who feel themselves as tall people should be in the back. How we should focus online. Good job.
don't want to let them out on this.
Yeah.
So for participants in Zoom, you can open your camera now. We are going to do some with
Ini oke ya teman-teman, gue ya. Oopsies. Oke, ini masih terpantau ya teman-teman, belum ada yang scam.
Okay.
Mungkin Mbak Dewi, Mas Gavi, terus ada Mas Budi, ada Mbak Alia, Mas Edo, sama Mbak Penny.
Video right click. Dipakai ada videonya apa di hide enggak?
Yang hide, oke.
Iya.
So sorry guys, Pak ya. Oke, let's go. Pak siswa mana ya? Ya kita doang nih Pak. Oke, mantap nih. Mas Yudi udah yang 5 episode ya. Oke, kita tunggu Pak siswa dulu ya.
I'm back.
Oke, smile teman-teman. Thank you. Oke, thank you guys.
Makasih teman-teman. Makasih Pak Siswo.
Okay, good.
Wejangannya.
Yeah, so thank you for staying with us. So we are going to continue for our next session. So our next session will be from Pak Krishna Gupta. So Pak Krishna Gupta, the floor is yours now.
Oh, wow, just like that. Well, that's quick. Hi, everyone. Sorry, can I share the screen myself if I can? Sorry about this. Give me a sec. Whoops. Can everyone see the thing? And can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Mas Fajar? All right. Okay.
Looks good. Sounds good.
Amazing. All right. First of all, let me address Your Excellency, Dr. Siswa Pramono. Thank you for your presentation. It's pretty amazing to have a look at our state of electric vehicle at the moment and how the region really focusing on those issues. It's great. And I will kind of build into that because I talked a little bit also about EV. And before I start, please let me be nostalgic a little bit. I really love the room you guys using. The Mary Ray is an amazing place. I got nothing but a positive experience during my stay at the ANU in Australia. A little bit about me. I know Fajar already talk quite some stuff about me, but I did my PhD over there in the Australian National University in Crawford, to be exact. I do a little bit tutoring at the CBE when I was there, talking with students. A pretty amazing experience. I learned a lot, not just from the material, but also how the ANU works, basically, how the education system works, how the university works. It's a great experience. At the moment, I work at Polytechnic APP. It's a university under a Ministry of Industry. I also do a little bit of part-time lecture at the Universitas Indonesia. And a little bit of some other details that are not very important. The important thing is, if you want to have access to the slide, you can go ahead and have a look at that QR thing, or just type s.id/DIKSI PPIA on your phone or on your laptop or whatever. Okay, today, first of all, I'm an economist, so I will talk mostly from economic perspective on the region, right? So things that analysis that beyond economics, I know nothing about it. So if any one of you wants to talk about it, of course, be my guest. But please take my take on the region with a grain of salt. But first of all, I want to kickstart with the summit itself, right? The theme is, does ASEAN matter? And then I will move on to RCEP. So this is something that is just recent and huge, very important, especially if you want to develop the EV thing, which requires a complex supply chain, right? A region that can move goods and services flawlessly is extremely important for EV. And lastly, a little bit of food security. This is also things that are discussed during the summit. Okay. So yeah, this is also what Dr. Pramono already mentioned, right? Some declarations that the summit produced, like the regional development of EV ecosystem and regional payment connectivity. All these are very essential to make the region a powerhouse. And by that, I mean a region which can be the epicentrum of growth, where while other regions like the US, China, and EU kind of slowing down at the moment, ASEAN can pick up the pace to improve the global growth even better. And obviously, it requires a flawless movement of goods, services, and money, of course. So regional payment, very important. And yeah, Dr. Siswa Pramono also mentioned about the instability that we are experiencing at the moment, and ASEAN is aspired to be the stable region, right? The place where you can do business without getting scared of all those politicians that are currently not very close with each other, right? And ASEAN also in the statement by the chair, Bapak Joko Widodo, remains committed to regionalism and multilateralism. I'm sorry, my English kind of sucks. But yeah, this commitment is extremely important, right? Because the region wants to be the epicenter of growth, and shying away from trade and cooperation is not really the way if we want to be the epicenter of growth. So this statement is powerful. Send messages to all the large powers that are currently having, a spat with each other. But the next question is, but does ASEAN really matter? How big is ASEAN in the grand scheme of things compared to other regions? So I will share with you a little bit of economic stuff at the moment. So of course, there's a lot of ways to look at it. But if we have a look on GDP, so all these numbers, I get it. I gathered them for the year 2021. Please pay attention to the y-axis because all of these four graphs have, sorry, a little bit of graph crime, but the y-axis are all different. So yeah, please pay attention on those. But when we talk about GDP in a current US dollar, ASEAN is, at least compared to other regions, is not kind of super high, right? So definitely when the giants are fighting each other, we will feel the impact, right? Just like when Avenger fight Thanos and normal people like us basically just vanish without know what to do, something like that, right? And GDP growth, remember this is 2021, right? 2023 probably different. 2022 also different, but at least in 2021, yeah, our growth is not very special. But also remember, but 2020. We had COVID, right? And everything got negative growth. So this could be the lower base effect. So take this stats with a grain of salt. On FDI, however, lots of money flows into ASEAN quite much compared to at least India and Japan. And on the international trade, ASEAN also haven't played a role that we all would want. In making a dent in to be a region that matters in economic affairs in the globe. So not very promising if you look at these numbers. However, trade and investment within itself remains strong. So as you can see in trade in both export and import, intra-ASEAN trade remains up there on the top. With China as our closest trading partner at the moment in the region. On the other hand, FDI is the other way around. Money coming from the US still the largest in the region compared to China. So at least this is very interesting, right? Because this put ASEAN in an interesting spot where trade-wise, we're kind of close with China. But when we talk about FDI, remember, Dr. Pramono also mentioned about the need to have a large investment on EV, right? And those money came mostly from this region, but lots of those FDI are actually USA. We just need to ask USA to also put money on the EV instead of on other sectors alone, right? So there is opportunity to have an investment from the US to balance at least China's influence if they desire to do so. So, but the bottom line is ASEAN is really in the very interesting position at the moment, and how this region going to do anything about it will be very interesting to look forward to. Right. So matters, yeah, especially if we look at a trade and FDI. Challenges, however, remains, right? Weaker global growth is expected, right? In 2023, only 2.3%, huge drop compared to previous years. And we heard a lot about inward lookingness, a lot of subsidies to their own economy, trying to berdikari, what's the English, try to self-sufficient, and all those jargons that's not very promising when we talk about regionalism. Geopolitical rivalry, how are we going to balance our foot with different regions, how they are, the large powers, going to think about how we try to balance our foot in the grand scheme of things. Climate change is a real problem. It is problematic because it reduces food productivity, right? If I look at Indonesian stats and ASEAN stats, really, the productivity of rice is in a decline, not very serious, but population grows, right? So we basically do not want food productivity to decline. Indonesian palm oil, one of the top export goods, is slowing down its productivity, and a lot of experts lay their hands on, put their fingers on climate change, with obviously reasons, right? And this requires resources to tackle. So we do EV, that is good to tackle climate change, but in the broader sense, it have problems to food security as well. So it's great that Indonesia, as a chair, also discuss about food security, strengthening the commitment on this issue. Now, more opportunities, right, to be matters in ASEAN. The main thing that I will discuss here, because I'm an economist, obviously, RCEP. And also the region's commitment to multilateralism. I hate this word, multilateralism, right? Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, let's talk about RCEP for the moment. For those who don't know, ASEAN has an FTA with itself. So we tried among ourselves on the lower tariff basis. And ASEAN, on top of that, adds ASEAN +1. So basically, as a region, we discuss FTA, a free trade agreement, by the way, FTA is, with other regions as well. So ASEAN China free trade agreement, ASEAN Korea free trade agreement, ASEAN Japan, and ASEAN Australia, New Zealand, ANZ FTA. And the RCEP is basically kind of combine all those into one. That's a little more complicated than that, but you can think about it like that, right? It covers trade in goods, services, investment, movement of natural persons. Dr. Pramono also bring this up, right, about the need to protect migration and how to improve those migration, how to make people move quite easily, especially when we need labors to certain industry in a certain region. Also covers some development and cooperation. And this is the largest economic partnership agreement, right, covering huge countries. However, the impact from tariff is negligible. According to World Bank's estimate, using CGE, I'm pretty sure this is 0.07% higher real income only, right? That's quite negligible. And this is, I think, numbers on 2035. But the reason is because the tariff in the region is already quite low. So reducing tariff won't give us huge advantage anymore, right? And outside tariff, the agreement seems to water down. So the immediate commitment coming from RCEP on issues such as non-tariff measures, the quota restriction, those things, government procurement, competition is not sound enough, right? And many of these issues will be depending on the future of RCEP Secretariat, that I'm not sure how they will make this actually, but the commitment to make RCEP have more teeth is there, right? So they just need some more meetings and the RCEP can be revised in the future. And I think the next agenda to revise RCEP is like 2026 general. So during the general view, we can talk again and see if the commitment can be increased, especially if we want to be the epicentrum of growth. The gain, however, will come from the new rules of origin. So this can be quite technical, but this is important. So I will probably share with you a little bit. So a single region ROO, or rules of origin, means a good that use components from various RCEP countries will be counted as originated from RCEP. So let me give you an example. If we, Indonesia, want to export to Australia, right? If we want to enjoy the tariff from Australia, New Zealand, ASEAN tariff, we need to show that the goods that coming from Indonesia originated something percent, I think around 40%. This is a little bit of making complex things a little bit more digestible. It should be more complex, but anyway, probably like something 40% coming from Indonesia, the inputs, right? The labor that you use, the components that you use for that goods must be from Indonesia, because we don't want to buy something from different region and then use Indonesia, Australia tariffs to go there, right? So it's a little bit hard if you're a firm that use inputs from Japan, for example. You can only use Japan FTA. And if you want to use the Australia-Indonesia FTA, you need you can't use that imported inputs from Japan. You need to source it either from Indonesia or from Australia. Now, ROO in RCEP means that any country in RCEP will be counted as one region, right? So the problem that I previously told you is no longer the case if the RCEP is implemented flawlessly. This is a perfect environment if we want to have a regional value chain industries, right? If we want to be a powerhouse, if we want to have a place where we assemble things, and the input comes from everywhere, like Dr. Pramono mentioned a little bit earlier, right? Where the lithium comes from, where the nickel comes from, where the R&D comes from. It can be coming from anywhere in the region, and we can use the RCEP. And this is something that is going to matter, right? Not the tariff, not the other way, but these rules of origin. This will change a little bit the game. However, still, the non-tariff measures still play a role, right? For example, remember how China banned some of Australia exports, things like these. Indonesia banned their own exports of nickel, so other places in the region can't utilize it unless they move to Indonesia, things like these. And a control over their own trade policy is increasing at the moment. And it's not looking like it's going to slow down, right? And all countries do this, not just Indonesia, not just China. Vietnam also, Thailand also, and many others. As Jayant Menon from ADB mentioned, the NTM in ASEAN as a region grows rapidly between 2000 and 2015. And secondly, geopolitically, RCEP might push ASEAN more towards China, because China is among RCEP countries while the other powers are not, right? And then it becomes the question, can the region still be independent? However, there is IPEF, right? How the US tries to have a deal with the region. We'll see how it plays out, because RCEP at the moment looks a little bit more strong compared to IPEF. I haven't heard any like important stuff coming from IPF, but that can change quite soon. We'll see what happens. Right, the EV trend. So there's a bunch of studies that shows that EV is among the most important thing to do if we want to deal with climate change. But if we want to talk about industry growth in the region, EV is also interesting because it's so different compared to IC car, right? Like conventional car. If you are a very good producer of combustion engine car, you have to train from the beginning to understand how EV works. So you don't have to have a huge prior knowledge on cars to understand EV, right? Because everything is so different. This gives us gives an opportunity for new players like BYD, VinFast to come in and invest in EV. So it's a kind of a unique industry in that everyone starts from scratch, including the old players like Toyota, like Mercedes-Benz. And let's look at the trade of the vehicles. So again, this is not EV, right? This is all vehicles. And I'm going to show you the export and import. As you can see, Thailand is a bit up there, right? In both export and import. They have a large capacity of automotive industry. They produce much more than their own market can absorb. And in fact, I think more than half SUVs roaming around Australia land is coming from Thailand. I'm pretty sure, but please check the stats. Indonesia, second. Yeah, Indonesia is also a powerhouse in terms of automotive, but because their land is so huge, lots of people, they serve the domestic market more than the global market. So it's to be expected that Indonesian export is lower, simply because they have more people and have a larger GDP compared to Thailand. However, when we look at production, unfortunately, I didn't bring the numbers over here. Thailand still, it's not unfortunate. The difference between Indonesia and Thailand is kind of a rather small. But like Dr. Pramono mentioned as well, ASEAN is a great place to start a EV vehicle. If you see this, everyone, literally everyone in the region already knows a thing or two on making cars. BYD, Wuling, Hyundai already has presence. VinFast is very promising. Unfortunately, the only, I think, firm in the region that is quite huge on EV, right? Like the ASEAN firms, right? The rest are from China and South Korea. And Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand already rolled in some incentives for 465 USD for Indonesia. This is the subsidy of a motor vehicle that Dr. Pramono just mentioned. But Malaysia and Thailand also have their own subsidies per vehicles. Is this big? Is this okay? Unfortunately, EV, despite subsidies, are still relatively expensive in the region. So when we talk about, at least Indonesia, please, if you have other regions, if you have information on other regions, you can share with me, of course. But Indonesia, most people buy like the cheap car, right? The LCGC in my country, we call that. Also a motorcycle. A motorcycle is really, really huge. And one reason is, first, it's relatively cheap. And secondly, you can have like a used motorcycle that's still good, right? The motorcycle that, you know, batok geter, we call it. I don't know how to explain this in English, but that's not really a new motorcycle, right? This kind of market is, they can't afford expensive EV. So we can't think of the Ioniq 5 being a mainstream vehicle, right? A Tesla Model Y, probably small chance, right? So the market is not extremely great, if I may say so myself. So the production may require the global market. So if we utilize export, just like Thailand selling abroad, then there is a chance that the industry will mature, right? However, again, turning inward and global. So the top three markets are obviously China, US, and EU. So we can get great economies of scale if we can exploit those three markets as a region, of course, using RCEP as our backbone of a powerhouse in the ASEAN. However, those three countries also are starting to turn inward and global rivalry again, these things, right? Make it hard to work together to sell to these different markets. Secondly, if every countries in the region, you know, aspired to be exporters of cars, then we will see probably something like Latin America in the 80s, 90s, where each countries have their own industries and we have too much firms. So each firms only sell a fraction of cars. So they didn't have enough scale to produce efficiently. And at the end, they all relies on subsidy acquired for a long time. So this is also can be a problem if we learn from the historical case. And don't forget about infrastructure, right? Charging station. There was a great question about battery recycling. Battery recycling is extremely hard, and CI/CIRO is one of the best actually to do that. And we also have to remember that there are plenty of technology in batteries, right? So if we talk about nickel batteries, of course, there's something that we can recycle, but batteries that's mainstream in China right now, the LFP, the ferrophosphate battery, it's much harder to recycle that. And yeah, it is extremely important to talk about this. Probably even recycling batteries starts from the design of the battery itself, right? So not just how this can fit the car, how this can last very long, but also what to do, how to efficiently recycle this battery should be coming from the design. And the next challenge is greening the grid. So this is, I get it from the Our World in Data. This is from 2002 until 2022. If you open my slide, you can just drag this and see for yourself. But this is basically a fraction of electricity production that comes from fossil fuels. And as you can see, ASEAN has not yet be the greenest electricity producers in the planet, I would say. There's a huge, more than 80% in most ASEAN countries actually utilize brown resources, black resources. So this is a challenge. Also, the region must also think about this, how to green the grid. So of course, there's one, the sun cable. Yeah, that's one of the issues that I know right now, where Australia try to export their excellent wind and sun energy to the region using cables, undersea cables. If we can do that, that will be very amazing and helps with this greening the grid. So hopefully, the cooperation kicks in and the money will be there. And lastly, a little bit on food security. The region is not among the top, food security performers, unfortunately. Singapore, despite only have 0 farmers, stand in the quite comfortable place in the rank 28, but the rest not so much. While Thailand and Vietnam produce a lots of rice and Indonesia produce lots of oil with Malaysia, many of things that we consider good food, like animal protein, for example, it's hard to get from their own region, right? So tried definitely must be in the list, right? It's hard to fulfill beef just in the region itself, right? And this is, again, Dr. Pramono mentioned about the beef and how working with ASEAN countries, including Australia, will benefit in this regard. However, ASEAN has this integrated food security, IFS framework. It was crucial in helping solve food crisis during the GFC in 2008 and the COVID crisis. So this framework really worked. And we can avoid lots of food crisis because of this IFS. Of course, Dr. Pramono mentioned about how resilient Indonesians are, and also other ASEAN member state people, all resilient. But IFS, please, let's not forget how hard they worked to ensure that the region are not dying from famine. The framework itself helps with monitoring, reacting to crisis, and keeping trade open. It was designed up to 2025 or 2015, but Indonesia as a chair, along with other member states, all committed to ensure that IFS never dies. So ensure that these framework will be continued in the region. So this is very important. And there is no way around increasing productivity, right? I talk about how trade matters. But if everyone in the global economy reduce their productivity because of climate change, then where can we buy those food from? When can we sell those food from? What can we sold, right? So there's no way around increasing productivity. And again, R&D is extremely important in how we can improve this. And closing, right? Economy-wise, ASEAN remains relatively small, but nonetheless in an important region, especially in the midst of global rivalry and the slowing down of all the other regions, inflation and increasing interest rate and so on. Thankfully, this is something to be commended, right? The summit remains committed to multilateralism, which is very, very good and important. The ASEP and the commitment to develop EV and food security will determine whether ASEAN really does matter in the end to become the epicentrum of growth. And yeah, thank you very much for listening to me up to this very moment. Mas Fajar, I hope I'm not over time. So yeah, right back at you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so thank you, Pak Krishna, for your presentation. It is really insightful for the presentation. And Pak Krishna mentioned about the Asian economies post-COVID-19. So ASEAN economy still have a very good trade volume, right? It is comparable with China, and also the FDI is also huge for the ASEAN economies. And I can also mention about the challenges going forward for the region, mainly from the global instability. But on the other hand, we also have opportunities in terms of commitment to the multilateralism. And Pakistan also mentioned about the free trade agreement within the ASEAN region, and also between ASEAN and also with the other countries with different regions, and also about the progress of ED in the ASEAN region, also about the food security. So let's open up the Q&A session. So if you have any questions, you can just raise your hand or just put the question in the chat box. We can address shortly.
By the
let me
way,
start with the
Mas Fajar, I'm
Pak
sorry
Mas
to
Fajar.
cut you. Please read the question to me because the sound coming from the audience is quite inaudible to me, unfortunately. So yeah, please repeat the question for me, Mas Fajar. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so we have one question from Pak Siswa.
Hi, thank you, Mas Krishna. It's an excellent presentation. Thank you very much. Yes, one comment is on the very interesting idea that you raised. Is on the green grid. Yeah, I think this is something that we need really to think of and think hardly how to develop that. Number one, we have very typical big island archipelago. So if we are talking about Papua, there's a lot of potential to have a green grid from hydropower, Membramo, or from Urumuka River, and Kalimantan will be for Kayan rivers. Yeah, but there's also a region like Java, which is not pretty much strong on hydro. It can use something else. For sure that Sumba and the other region can get more benefit from the photovoltaic. So perhaps designing that is quite a challenge for a PPE student to how to design a green grid from island to island with the different input of the green. Number two is on the efficiency of the grid. This is also a matter of technology. Transmission loss must be tackled and seriously, because if more than 10%, then we are going to lose a lot of electricity to the customers because of transmission loss. Yeah, I think there are the two comments on the grid. The other one is on the rule of origin. So for instance, in the case of Indonesia and Australia, it used to be different in the past because we love instant noodle. Every student in here is instant noodle, whatever the brand. Yeah, and we understand that in the past, before the war, we got a lot of wheat from Ukraine because the price is very competitive, from Russia or Argentina. But after the war, after the invasion of Russia, then we stopped getting the wheat from Ukraine and we ship it into Australia. So most of the wheat for our noodle is likely we need to check on the statistic on the trade map from Australia. So this can be a kind of opportunity for rule of origin as well, either IASEPA or RCEP. Thank you.
Okay, so we have another two questions from the chat box from the Zoom participants. So the first question is coming from Pak Budi Andika. So Pak Budi asking about with current Indonesian government's plan to start downstreaming nickel. So does Indonesia have any chance to surpass Thailand's current high EV production in the future? Yeah.
Okay, shall I just respond, Mas Fajar?
Yes, please.
Awesome, thank you. Your Excellency, thank you very much for your question. Yeah, this is extremely important. So first of all, please take it with a grain of salt. I'm not an engineer. I'm an economist, a little bit of engineering, but engineering humans. But right, on the grid, it is problematic. But if the sun cable, I really think that the sun cable could work, right? We can learn a thing or two on that. So in your position learning about the sun cable can be very can be very interesting, Pak Siswa, especially the Sun cable is right now. As what I know is a talk between Australia and Singapore, but those cable will go through Indonesia, right? There's no way around it. So how can we also get something positive from there, right? If the cable works, maybe we can also use it for the island. Considering how the surplus in Java Island is extremely large at the moment, and the government tries to find a way to discharge those actually. So if we can have a way to move the output to the different island, that would be amazing. But again, I'm not an engineer. I can't actually calculate these things. Probably among you and the Mary Ray, engineers among you, raise your hand. This is a very huge challenge to tackle. Also, the efficiency. I agree with you. There's nothing to say on that. On the rules of origin, right? So when I was helping the Ministry of Economic Affairs on both ISEPA and RCEP, this comes up, right, about the global value chain, about the powerhouse between Indonesia and Australia, where the wheat comes from Australia and can be utilized by Indonesia. And indeed, right, you are extremely correct when you said that after the war, most of the wheat comes from Australia. And not just that, right? If you have like a dried rendang thing that you utilize beef, right? We all love rendang as well. That's the amazing food. The dried one can last forever and ever and ever. I remember when I was a student, eating those things saved my life during exams. And also the beef comes from Australia, right? Now you just told us about the lithium that comes from Australia. A lot of things can be the point of the powerhouse between the two regions. And I can't stress this enough. This is extremely important combination between the two countries. So thank you to bring about that issue, Pak. And I hope my answer satisfies you. Again, I'm sorry, I'm not an engineer. On the downstreaming nickel, yeah. Any chance to surpass Thailand? Look, the chance is there. The difference between Indonesia and Thailand is much more aggressive in pursuing the free trade agreement. So Vietnam as well. So this is a note that we can take from the two countries, right? Thailand and Vietnam both utilize a lot of FTA, so they can access a lot of markets. So Indonesia, Australia, CEPA, the IACEPA, the Thailand and Australia have their CEPA first before Indonesia, as a matter of fact, and they use that to export their SUVs. That's why they're competitive, because they have a lower tariff. Vietnam can utilize EU market because they have a FTA with EU. We are still discussing it in Indonesia, EU SEPA, but Vietnam already have one of those. That's also one reason why our textiles are expensive in Europe compared to Vietnamese textiles. So the free trade agreement with other regions. But secondly, Indonesian nickel. Wow, I can talk 2 hours about nickels. I wrote a little bit about nickels, how they're difference between the class 1 and class 2. Class 1 is really the easier one to become the battery, while the class 2 is the one that easy to become steel. Right, and one of the reasons why almost all of our output at the moment in Indonesia, by our I mean Indonesia, are stainless steel, is because we have class 2. That's the nickel that dominates Indonesia right now, not the class 1, unfortunately. Class 1, lots in Australia, as a matter of fact. Yeah, so there is a challenge to move from the stainless steel to actually build the battery. However, having said that, the efforts are there. So lots of investment right now are moving towards making the nickel grade 2, the class 2 nickel, into EV. And again, as I said, EV is a completely new thing. Even if you export a lot of normal combustion engine, it doesn't give you a lot of advantage in terms of automotive. So Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam all start from the ground up. Straight zero, right? So if you ask about the chance is definitely there because everyone starts from scratch. So hopefully, right, with the right strategy, we will see how it's playing out, how the class 2 improvement into battery plays out. And Indonesia have a larger market compared to Thailand, at least domestically. If Indonesia can also utilize foreign market, just like Vietnam and Thailand did with their FTAs, then I'm pretty sure Indonesia's chance is up there. Thank you. I hope I'm not spending too much time answering, and I hope that's clear. Back to Mas Fajar.
Yeah, so thank you, Pak Krishna. So we have another question from the chat box. It's from Mbak Alia Rita. So talking about regional rivalry, how we could regulate things revolving around the EV supply chain in the region to avoid this issue while at the same time benefiting all the countries in the region.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is this is an excellent question. I won't pretend I know everything about answering this question because this is definitely something that's pretty hard. And as I mentioned in my presentation, right, this is actually the challenge to make the country be the powerhouse of the EV. Right. So at the moment, I probably should also say that the ASEAN, as you probably can tell, the ASEAN at the moment is not having too much teeth, right? So lots of things are a lot of things are a commitment for the future, but not for now. And we will see how they will change this, in fact. So at the moment, each country still work by themselves, which could potentially harmful if we focus on the epicentrum of growth and the economies of scale and efficiency. Having said that, the new declaration coming from the summit, I actually did not expect that, right? About the thing that Dr. Siswo Pramono mentioned, right? About the declaration of the leaders on developing the region. It wasn't there. I didn't really expect that. I was kind of surprised when I saw that. And that was actually a pretty good development, right? Because previously, as I said, they act by themselves. Now they decided to, no, we can't act by ourselves. Let's make a declaration that we are, as a region, going to act together. And this, again, I stress, is very important. However, as with RCEP, the declaration itself has no teeth at the moment. There is nothing binding on that declaration, but the declaration nonetheless, right? This means the ASEAN Secretariat will look at it and see how it plays out. But this is better than nothing. Hopefully, this is better than nothing. So hopefully, countries will talk again, right, and see if they can work something out. On the policy, they probably need to work something on the regional basis, just like the RCEP ROO, for example, and see if it works out for everyone, right? Because in the end, it's a trade policy is not a lose-lose. There's something you can gain from others. But this remains to be seen, right? So Mbak Alia, if you have time, please keep following this news on the declaration on the regional EV development, and we'll see how it plays out. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Pak Krishna. So I think we have another last questions. Does anyone want to have some questions? Can raise your hand. So actually, I'm interested with the implication of the EV ecosystem in the labor market, actually. So as we know, especially in Indonesia case, so the traditional automotive sector is actually, it's quite important for the employment in Indonesia because it absorbs so many workers for Indonesian people, right? So right now, Indonesian government try to focus on the EV ecosystem. So what do you think implication for the labor market for Indonesia and also for the Asian regions?
Right, economist question, I can tell. Amazing one at that. Right, you're right. The thing is, the EV vehicle requires less labors. You probably already know this, right? Because they have less component, they have less trickle down. Having said that, obviously, a lot of employment coming in this industry will be much more higher value added in that, you need a software engineer, for example, and you need all the technician to understand software as well. But in terms of raw numbers, they don't absorb as much. labors compared to the internal combustion engine. So it's not very promising, especially understanding that Indonesia's workforce are dominated by sekolah dasar, SMA, non-university people. So this is definitely something of a concern. Having said that, we still have no plan at the moment to phasing out ICE. So I'm not entirely convinced that the ICE will be gone and all this employment will be gone. No, I don't think so. The growth of the ICE will still be there, albeit slowly declining in the future. But the replacement of ICE to EV won't happen instantaneously, Mas Fajar. And actually, this is a good thing because Indonesia is having a demographic boom at the moment, right? Where we have lots of people that need jobs, and the jobs will be coming from the normal automotive, not the EV. As we transition, Indonesia again will be aging as well at some point in time in the future, where we probably won't need too much labor that needs work, right? Hopefully. So by that time, when we already have a good EV ecosystem, the employment in the EV should be enough to absorb all the people. So I won't be concerned too much for now, especially because our transition to EV, especially lowering the share of the ICE, it's not there yet. So probably we'll see the industry still grow a little bit at the moment.
So we have one last question actually from the chat box. So it's coming from Pak Yudi Hartawan. So nothing that we are talking about country's role. How does individual role affects this? So for example, like Elon Musk, EV production is not regulated by the government. Therefore, he can produce wherever he wants. So what do you think about this?
Excellent question. Yeah, this is also something that's interesting. The role of large firms in international trade and production, also something I looked at when I was doing my PhD there at the ANU. But this is exactly true. As you probably already know now, right? Indonesian officials already lobbied these people quite some time, right? Some comes, some doesn't, hasn't. Let's say hasn't. But that is something that's hard to avoid, right? Small numbers of firms can have two effects. One is they have a huge control over production and prices. But on the other hand, if they're not huge, they cannot cover the large fixed cost. This is too much of an economist terminology. I hope you can follow. That needs to be spread among lots of buyers, right? So small numbers of firms can be a positive thing. But you are right. We certainly has to cover them. However, having said that, they also controlled by their buyers, right? The three largest region right now for EVs are EU, US, and China. If those countries control the market using policies like, for example, a fraction of your input cannot come from these countries, that countries, then they have to strategize, something like that. So the country, the nations themselves are doing something to fight this power as well. So really, this is just about having a middle ground between the country and the billionaires that controlling these firms. So yeah, I won't say he can produce wherever he wants. He's limited by his own bias. For example, green EV, everyone don't want dirty nickel, for example, so he cannot produce in the dirty nickel places. So some country says, oh, you can use my subsidy as long as your input coming from our allies, then they cannot produce wherever they want. They have to produce in their allies. So yeah, there are tools that tries to control this. But again, the role of the large firms now is getting more important as we speak, and we'll see how it play out in the EV. I hope that answers you, Mas Yudi Hartawan.
Yeah, so thank you, Pak Krishna, for the discussion today. It's really insightful. So let's give a big applause for Pak Krishna. Yeah, so we are nearing the end of our time today. So I want to express our gratitude to both of our speakers, Pak Siswo Pramono and also Pak Krishna Gupta, for sharing their insight for all of us in here. And thank you also for everyone who joining the seminar. We also appreciate your time and also participation. And if you have any further question, you just need to contact us via the DM, or you can just send us via the chat box in the Instagram place. So I will give back the session to our MC. Thank you.
Ajar. And once again, on behalf of the Indonesian Student Association of Australia, Australian Capital Territory, and the Australian National University, we wish to express gratitude to, first of all, our keynote speakers, His Excellency Dr. Siswa Pramono, as well as Dr. Krishna Gupta. Together, you have given a very inspiring talk, as well as a comprehensive and in-depth look in ASEAN, its potential and its challenges in various dimensions, from its electronic vehicle trade and economic partnerships, rules of origin, food security. And I believe not only through your separate speeches, but also your interactions with each other and Q&A sessions with the participants, we have all gained a very in-depth insight, only exclusive to this event, regarding ASEAN in the current time and its potential in the future. So I thank you, Dr. Siswa and Dr. Krishna, for that, as well as once again, Mas Fajar, for your moderation. At the same time, I want to express gratitude and congratulations for the Indonesian Student Associations of Australia, Australian Capital Territory, and the Australian National University for cooperating together to bring this event to life. And thank you very much for being able to bring such esteemed and prestigious talent to this event today to share their knowledge with us all. I hope that today we have all been able to partake in a very expert and specific conversation regarding ASEAN and its economic characteristics. And I hope everyone thoroughly enjoyed it. With that, I wish to thank everyone for participating and want to close this event. And before I do, I will once again remind us that after this, we will have another photo session with our guest speakers, Dr. Siswa and Dr. Krishna, online and in person. And we hope to see you in the next time we are able to gather again for another DIKSI, Diskusi Kekinian Seputar Indonesia. Thanks again, everyone, for coming. Have a nice day. All right. Let us have our photo session right now. Let's push the table away. Yeah. All right. Let's start. Once again, let's have 2 rows. Those that feel themselves to be tall, back, and those that are self-conscious of how tall they really are, please be at the front. Yeah.
Okay.
Someone can kneel.
I'm so sorry.